Hi, my name is Dennis. Welcome to my channel. I speak English, and you can definitely speak English too if you watch my videos and learn with me. And today we are going to break down one of the most important grammar points in English language, the past simple tense. The past simple tense is one of the most common and frequently used verb tenses in the English language. Native speakers and non-native speakers use it all the time in their speech or writing. So, most generally, the past simple tense represents all the actions in the past, actions that started and completed in the past. When we talk about our completed actions, past events, or something like that, we usually use the past simple tense. Let's take a look at the structure of a typical affirmative or positive sentence in which we use the past simple tense. So, as you can see, we have subject, for example, I, you, we, they, or any singular or plural noun, and we have a verb in past simple tense. In past simple tense, or sometimes it may be called as verb to, V2. So this is the structure of the very simple sentence in which we use the past simple tense. So the structure itself is very easy. The most interesting and kind of tricky thing for English learners is the past simple form of verbs, of English verbs. Because, as you know, English verbs can be regular or irregular. And also, regular English verbs might have different endings depending of different spellings of these verbs. And now I'm going to show you how we should use different spelling rules for different English verbs. Most of regular verbs we can transform into the past simple form just simply adding to them the ed ending. For example, I'm showing in my notes: work, worked, walk, walked, clean, cleaned, stay, stayed, play, played, want, wanted, look, looked, call, called, ask, asked, need, needed, and so on. You might have heard that the pronunciation of ed ending is also different in those cases, but this is the subject for the next big lesson. So today we are gonna talk only about spelling words, not about the pronunciation of these words. So let's move on. For the regular verbs ending in a silent E, for example, like, use, die, we should add just the letter D at the end. So, for example, like becomes liked, use becomes used, die, died, close, closed, move, moved, change, changed, live, lived, believe, believed, provide, provided, include, included. Please pay attention. Let's move to the next rule. For the regular verbs that ending in a consonant plus y, we should delete the last letter y and add the ending ied at the end of the verb to transform it into the past simple form. So, for example, apply, applied, hurry, hurried, carry, carried, try, tried, worry, worried, reply, replied, identify, identified, study, studied, deny, denied, satisfy, satisfied. I hope you got this rule. If you weren't, please replay this part of the video or let me know in the comments and make some questions in the comment and I'll try to answer. So let's move on. The regular verbs with one syllable, the short verbs with one syllable that ends in consonant plus vowel plus another consonant. For example, stop, plan, feed. We should double the final consonant of the verb and add the ed ending. For example, stop, stopped, plan, planned, fit, fitted, sleep, slept, pop, popped, grab, grabbed, beg, begged, drag, dragged, spot, spotted, ban, banned. But there is an exception in this rule. If a verb ends in letter X or X, the letter X isn't doubling, so mix becomes mixed without double X, just with one X. So, and another rule, guys. Regular verbs with two or more syllables, endings, please pay attention, endings at consonant plus vowel plus another consonant, but the verb, I say it one more time, has two or more syllables. In this case, if the last syllable is stressed, we should double the last consonant and add, as usual, the ending ed after a doubled consonant. So, for example, prefer becomes preferred with two r. Admit becomes admitted with two t. Transfer becomes transferred. Control becomes controlled. And regret, for example, becomes regretted. So you can see that we have two consonants at the end of the main verb before the ed ending. Otherwise, if the last syllable of a verb of this type is not stressed, we just add the ed ending. For example, happen becomes happened, offer becomes offered, remember becomes remembered, consider becomes considered, develop becomes developed, suffer becomes suffered. And in this case, we shouldn't double our last consonant. for this last rule, we have some difference between British English and American English. In British English, for all verbs with two or more syllables that ending in consonant plus vowel plus L, for example, travel, cancel, modal, and others, in past simple forms, we must double L. We have to double L in British English for any of these verbs. Travel becomes traveled with double L. Cancel becomes cancelled with double L. And modal, for example, becomes modeled with double L, regardless of the stress, regardless of the syllable that's stressed in this verb. Otherwise, in American English, all these verbs that ending in L and have two or more syllables, all these verbs follow the main stress-based rule above, the previous rule for these verbs. I hope that was understandable. If you have any questions about these spelling rules of regular verbs, please let me know in the comment, and you and I together will find the answer. Those were the rules for regular verbs of English language. Now we have irregular verbs, the most interesting part of the verbs. Actually, there are no specific rules for irregular verbs. No rules, guys. I'm sorry, I don't know why, but that's just history of English language. So we just have to remember, we just have to learn the past simple form and past participle form for irregular verbs. Just a few examples of regular verbs, and I have to say that the most frequently used, the most common verbs of English language are irregular. That's just fact. So guys, for example, have becomes had in past simple, do becomes did, say, said, go, went, get, got, make, made, know, knew, think, thought, take, took, see, saw, come, came, and many more irregular verbs. The good news is, because of these verbs are very common and frequently used in spoken English and in written English, actually you can remember it, and I'm pretty sure that you know most of the verbs that I used as an example right now. So over time you can use it in your speech and in your writing without any struggling. Just let you some time for remembering these verbs. Enough about spelling. We took a look at the spelling rules. So to produce an affirmative or positive sentence using the past simple tense, we just should add a verb in past simple form using those rules that we've already talked about right now. We should add a verb to some subject. For example, I walked in a park this morning. That's true, guys. They played football yesterday. Sarah moved in this house 3 years ago. You tried to invite her for a date a few weeks ago. Somebody just stole my bicycle. So you can see that the first four example sentences, in the first four example sentences, I used regular verbs, and in the last example sentence, I used the irregular verbs steal, stole, stolen, for example. And you may have noticed a very important detail that in all these example sentences, we use some time mark, some time point. For example, yesterday, few days ago, last week, just. This is the very important thing, because when we use the past simple form, we should say when the action happened exactly. It may be yesterday, it may be 50 years ago, it may be 2 centuries ago. It doesn't matter. What's really matter that using the past simple tense, we let our listeners or our readers know when this action that we mentioned in our sentence happened. And that's, by the way, the key difference, for example, between the past simple and the present perfect tense. Native speakers use verbs in the past simple tense all the time when they talk about actions that happened with them in the past. And when we want to describe the series of some actions, we also should use the past simple tense. For example, let's take my today's morning. I got up at 7 a.m. and then I brushed my teeth and then I shaved, and after that I ate my breakfast, and after that I did my dishes, for example, and then I dressed up, and then I left my home and I went to a grocery store, for example, and then I bought some food, and then I went back home, and so on and so on. So you can see when we have some chain, some series of actions, we can use the past simple tense for all of them. And finally, we have a completed story about our day, our year, our life, eventually. So, guys, you can see that the past simple tense is very important and very common in English, actually. So, let's move on, and I'm going to talk about some other usings of the past simple tense. So, besides the main usage, just about one completed action in the past, we can use the past simple tense when we want to talk about repeated action that happened in the past. For example, it may be some habit that we had in the past, but now we don't have it anymore for some reasons. For example, I played soccer at school. She studied Spanish a few years ago. He worked for Microsoft in 1990s. I preferred swimming to running when I was a child. For me, that's true now too, actually. They traveled abroad a lot when they were younger. Of course, we can express the same idea using other constructions. For example, I used to. But in spoken English, you can often hear the past simple tense in sentences like this. So let's move on, and another possible usage of the past simple tense is the continuous actions. Continuous actions in the past. For example, I waited you at the station for 3 hours. He learned English all morning. She stayed at home for 2 weeks. Dogs barked all night long right under my window. So let's take a look at the structure of the negative sentences using the past simple tense. For the negative sentence using the past simple tense, we should use the auxiliary or helping verb do, but we should use it in its past simple form, what is did. And after our subject and the auxiliary verb did, we have to add not, and then our main verb, our action verb or other verb in its base form. So, for example, I did not eat my breakfast today, or I didn't eat my breakfast today. Didn't is a contraction for did not, and usually in spoken English and also in writing English very often too, we can see didn't. Another examples. He did not clean his room before he went to bed yesterday. Maybe a mother of some child is complaining to father of this child about his behavior yesterday. She didn't live in Mexico in that time. Maybe you have some wrong information. He didn't live in Mexico in that time we are talking about right now. So they didn't reply me about those job offer, for example. And I didn't drink anything, officer. So you can imagine the situation with the police and some man. Okay, so what about questions using the past simple tense? For producing questions using the past simple tense, we should also use the auxiliary verb did, but we should place it at the beginning of the question. Then after it's my pen, I'm making some notes sometimes. So when we have a question, we should place the helping verb did right at the beginning of the sentence, and then we should use our subject and then our main verb in its main form, in its base form. So, for example, did you wash your hands before dinner? Pay attention. Not did you washed your hands. That would be incorrect. That would be wrong. No, we have to use the main verb in its base form, not in the past simple form. One more time. When we make negative sentences and questions using the past simple tense, we transform the auxiliary verb do in its past form, did. But the main verb we must use in its base form. So, okay, you got it? I hope you get it. Did you wash, not washed. Did you wash your hands before dinner? And a couple of another examples. Did she tell you about tomorrow's meeting? For example, did I close the door? I can't remember. And actually, situation like this often happens to me in my life. I can't remember anything. I don't know. Maybe it's because of my age. So, one more example. Did they change their logo? I love the new one. Now we should tell about the special case of the verb to be. And just like in case of the present simple tense, if you haven't seen my video about the present simple tense already, I leave a link right here, right above my index finger, and you can see it. So just like in case of the present simple tense, the verb to be is only verb that don't need any auxiliary or helping verb when we make questions or negative sentences using the past simple form. And also, and this is very important thing, guys, the verb to be is the only verb that has two forms in the past simple tense. So these are was and were. And when a subject of a sentence is I, he, she, it, or any other singular noun, we must use the form was for the past simple tense of verb to be. I was, he was, she was, it was, Brad Pitt was, my dog was, and so on. If a subject of a sentence in the past simple tense is you, they, we, or any plural noun, we have to use were as a past simple form of the verb to be. So, we were, you were, they were, monkeys were, the police were, and so on. So let's take a look at the example sentences. I was the best student in my class. That's not totally true actually, but this is my channel and I can tell what I want. So, he was to Italy last summer. She was pretty drunk last night. We were in a soccer team few years ago. They were on the roof when I saw them last time. Da 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 da. This is a mystic story, maybe. As I said before, the verb to be is very strong and it don't need any auxiliary verbs when we want to make any negative sentence or any question. So, for negative sentences, we should just take our verb to be in the past simple form and add not to it. So, for example, I was not in the park yesterday. I was not in the park yesterday. Or if we use the contraction form, I wasn't in the park yesterday. I'm going to just take my previous example sentences and transform them into the negative sentences. So, I wasn't the best student in my class, to be completely honest. So, he was not to, let's say, he wasn't to China last summer. Yeah, he was to Italy last summer. She wasn't pretty drunk last night. She wasn't drunk last night. She just was tired, let's say. We weren't in a soccer team few years ago. We weren't in a rugby team, for example. They weren't on the roof. They were at the yard, the backyard. Regarding questions using past simple tense, we just have to take our to be verb in the past simple tense, was or were. It depends on a subject of the sentence, as I said before, and place it at the beginning of the sentence. And this is it. For example, was I in a sport team when I was at school, for example? Was he a famous actor many years ago? Yes, he was. Was she in your place yesterday? And we can answer, no, she wasn't. Were you scary when the dog started barking? And the last example, were they in Brazil last summer? No, they weren't, but they really wanted to be there. So, as you can see from this lesson, the past simple tense is used in many different situations. Now, I'm going to quickly recap the main points of this lesson. So, in this lesson, we learned the past simple tense. In this lesson, we learned the main usings of the past simple tense. First, the past simple tense is used for singular actions in the past, started and completed in the past. The second usings of the tense is repeated actions in the past or past habits. And the third main usage of this tense is the continuous actions in the past, actions that had some duration in the past. Also, we broke down the spelling rules of regular verbs in the past simple forms. We talked about irregular verbs and we talked about the special case of the strongest verb to be that has two past simple forms, was and were. So if this video was helpful for you, at least for a bit, please make sure to click the like button and subscribe to my channel, because I'm going to make many more very interesting and useful English learning videos and also fun English live vlogs. And if you haven't seen already, you have click on this link and you can see my other lessons about English grammar points and many more. So thank you very much for watching and bye bye for now.